In no particular order, really, except, well, the number one thing is the number one thing. But here's what I got. Number 5 on my list is Joel Embiid winning the MVP. I really like Bryce Harper, but I have thrown out how lucky we are to have Joel Embiid, and people are like, well, you know, Harper's an actual MVP. Duh. And I'm like, yeah, okay. How many playoff wins does he have in Philadelphia? 0. How many playoff appearances does he have in Philadelphia? 0. Yeah, I'm going to go with Joel Embiid. And that's not in a slight to Bryce Harper. I want to see him carry this team in the playoffs. And yes, I know Bryce Harper is not the problem, but I do know he is part of the solution. So I'm not raining on that parade by any means. But when it comes to whom I'm more appreciative to, it's definitely Joel Embiid. That's who I am more appreciative to. So I would like to see Joel Embiid win that MVP award. To go along with, a couple of playoff appearances, a couple of the playoff series wins, which is also nice, and also an MVP award to go along with that. Please and thank you. That's what I would like to see in the next year. Flyers, number 4. Hey, I got a Flyers one on here, pal. Flyers win a playoff series. Now, some people are looking at the Flyers right now and be like, they're not even going to make the playoffs. I'd just be happy if they made the playoffs. To hell with that. I want the Flyers to make the playoffs. I want Mike Yeo to lead them into the playoffs. I want Claude Giroux and Sean Couturier and Carter Hart and all those guys to get piping hot. And Cam Atkinson, piping hot. And I want to see them not only make the playoffs, but advance to the second round of the playoffs. And then, you know what? Anything can happen. Only thing can happen if you make the playoffs. Yeah, I understand that. I got more aspirations than that, and I think they can do it. I think they're a much better hockey team than what we saw in the last couple of weeks of Alain Vigneault. And plus, I'm not going to go to games anymore, so I'm not going to be there to jinx them, where I go to a game and then they lose 10 straight. So you're welcome, Philadelphia. That's at number 4. At number 2, this is, number 3. This is one of the things that I have talked about many times with Devin Caney and Derek Gunn on the postgame show, and I didn't see it happening until recently. We've talked about how the Eagles now have 3 first-round picks thanks to Carson Wentz actually playing all the games and all the snaps. It's amazing. But we have kind of fished a wish to say that the Eagles will take 3 defensive players in the first round of the upcoming NFL draft. I don't think that's possible for a couple of reasons. One, I don't think they'd ever do that even if they were forced to actually pick 3 players in the first round. I think they would absolutely take at least 1 offensive player. But I don't think they're going to have 3 first-round picks. I think they're going to end up moving up in the draft and maybe have 2 first-round picks. And if they do, in fact, take 2 first-rounders, I do think that it's very possible that they could take 2 defensive players in the early goings. If you look at any mock draft, if you look at anything like that, follow college football at all, you see that there are a bunch of edge rushers available. There are a bunch of linebackers available in the first round of the draft, and the Eagles can certainly get a good defensive playmaker on this defense going into next year. One that we can look at and go like, oh my God, the Eagles took a defense. Eagles took a linebacker. Eagles took a defensive end. Oh my goodness. And then we'll all compare it to Derek Barnett and Marcus Smith, and then we'll rain on that parade as quickly as possible. However, until then, it's very possible that the Eagles actually take 2 first-rounders on the defensive side of the ball in the upcoming draft. That right there is number 3 on my list, that they go defense heavy early in the draft. Do it, Howie. Please. Make us all really happy. Number 2 on my list. This is the one. This is the one that is most people look at and go like, get the hell out of here. Eagles won a playoff game. That's right. You heard me. I listen to these national pundits, former football players. I listen to these guys talk about the way the Eagles are running the football. And they showed the stat, and I want to make sure I get this right. I thought I had this up in queued. I do not, because I'm a big fat idiot, as I mentioned earlier. But they showed this stat during the game on Tuesday, which just feels dirty to say. Philadelphia Eagles, 7 consecutive games with 175 rush yards. 175 rush yards in 7 consecutive games. First team to do that since the 1985 Bears. First time in franchise history since 1949. World War II had just ended like a year earlier. That's how far back you got to go to get a stat like that. And when you listen to these former NFL players talk about the Eagles being able to run the football like that, it's like, what do you do to stop that? Lane Johnson, get around him. Nice try. Jason Kelsey, get around him. Nice try. Jordan Mailata throwing bodies around. And here's the thing. Those are just some of the three marquee names. Well, not even marquee names, because Jordan Mailata is not even a marquee name yet. He's paid like one and he plays like one, but around the league, not so much just yet. You look at these guys in the NFL and this offensive line and all the guys that they have rotated in, Jack Driscoll, Nate Herbig, Landon Dickerson, obviously, all these guys, Brandon Brooks being out, all the Sue Opeta now being out or being in there. All these guys have come out and played extremely well. And I would have loved to see, and we could all play with the revisionist history game, but it's not even revisionist history for us as fans, because we have simply looked at this team and go, why don't they run the ball? Like when they ran the ball just twice with a running back in the first half against the Dallas Cowboys. Huh? That wasn't fun to watch. Well, once they actually settled into this and realized how good their offensive line was, oh, they really took off. And you listen to these ex-NFL players, look at how the Eagles are running the football, and be like, no one's stopping them. They can absolutely win a playoff game, because how are you going to stop that in the playoffs? Defense is worn out. Defense is tired. Oh, late in the game, the Eagles are just running the football down your throat, and you can't do anything to stop it. You got Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, maybe Boston Scott back in the lineup, Kenny Gainwell running for you. That's four people that can run the football rather well. And Jordan Howard, Miles Sanders, I got to think. I was thinking about it yesterday. What's the running back tandem that you really enjoyed watching like that? Like, do you have to go back to like Westbrook and Buckhalter? Like, what do you have to go back to? What was it, three-headed monster with Westbrook and Buckhalter and Dorsey Levens for 1 year, or Brian Mitchell for another? Like, that was some good times watching that football. Go ahead and stop us. I double dogged it. Deuce Staley, obviously, is another name in there. That was pretty impressive. Eagles can do that again. Go ahead and stop us. But here's the thing. What they're doing right now is even better than what they were doing back then when you talk about any other three-headed monster that the Eagles had back in the day. That is something that I want to see carry this team into the playoffs, along with Jalen Hurts playing a great quarterback position. Not just on the scrambles, not just on the runs, but making money throws like he threw to Greg Ward in the end zone. And he even said it after the game, putting the ball right where he needed to put it, where only his receiver could get it. That's what I'd like to see going forward. And the Eagles, I certainly think, not only will they make the playoffs, I think it's definitely possible they win that playoff game that they'll actually be in. And how great would it be? How great would it be to see that happen? Number one on the wish list. I hate to do it because it's so obvious, but I have to. Ben Simmons, traded. And not just traded. Actually getting an all-star in return. Actually getting that all-star that the Sixers have so coveted this entire time when talking about dealing Ben Simmons. I hope that it happens sooner rather than later, and I hope that they actually bring back that all-star, not caliber player, that all-star player back in return. Now, look, the official wish is Dame Lillard. Apparently that's not happening. There's other guys out there. Brandon Ingram, I would certainly be considering right now for the 76ers to bring him back in a trade. Bradley Beal's another name that we've talked about multiple times. As long as they bring back that all-star player in this deal, that's where I get happy. That's where I get excited. That's where I look at the next 365 days and go, all right, now we got something to look forward to with this Sixers team. Because right now, even when they play the Celtics, like somebody even told me, oh, the Celtics are a 500 team. How are you excited that they beat a 500 team? Well, I'll tell you, because it's a division rival. It's a team that the Sixers have struggled against over the years. And the Sixers are, too, a 500 team right now. So if they're beating people in their own weight class, that makes me feel a little bit better about the future. But overall, when I watch the Sixers, and this has nothing to do with COVID, it has nothing to do with guys missing time, it has nothing to do with Tobias Harris still saying he feels sluggish or anything like that. When I watch the Sixers right now, tell me if you don't see what I see, an incomplete team. That's what I see. And that also might be obvious because you know they're incomplete because they don't have their three-time All-Star point guard playing phenomenal defense, being a good facilitator, and yes, missing free throws and not taking shots. We all know the other realities of his game. But they don't look like a complete team. Tyrese Maxey has helped fill that void, certainly, especially with his scoring. But they still look like they need somebody else. They still look like there is something not there, and that something not there is the return for Ben Simmons. And we're all past the point of Ben ever playing for this team again. Both sides are dug in, and it just looks like the Sixers are going to be in a spot where they just need to bring back that talent level to fill that void. Whether that's a good split of offense and defense, whether that's just a scoring dominant type player, whatever it might be, they are missing a huge piece to their puzzle. We talked to Michael Kasky-Blomane a couple of weeks ago that said the ceiling for this team is still a possible Eastern Conference Finals appearance. I don't see them being that good. I mean, if things would really have to go right for them throughout the rest of the Eastern Conference for them to make it to that spot. But if they bring back that all-star player, yeah, then you're talking about making an Eastern Conference run. Then you're talking about getting back to the spot that you were at a year ago where you were going to be a contender to make it to that Eastern Conference Finals. Unfortunately, the team that they faced tonight is the team that knocked him out in the Atlanta Hawks, and hopefully they get a little bit more revenge, a little bit more sweet revenge on the Atlanta Hawks. So we'll see how all that plays out. That's my wish list. Joel Embiid, MVP. Flyers win a playoff series. Eagles draft 2 defensive players in the first round. Eagles win a playoff game. Actually getting an all-star for Ben Simmons is on my holiday wish list.